So next up, we're going to be checking out How to Survive Victorian London by BlueJay. I was recommended to watch one of his other videos before, and it was awesome, man. So I wanted to watch more. So we're going to do it. That's my reason I'm sticking by it, and I can't say anyone say I'm wrong about this. So let's check it out.
Do you ever watch Downton Abbey and find yourself thinking, I should have...
Okay, full disclosure, I've never watched Downton Abbey. I've heard it's good. I also heard people say they didn't like it, so I have no idea which one's actually correct.
been born in the Victorian era? Well, you're stupid. Firstly, because Downton Abbey takes place 11 years after the Victorian era, silly goose.
Really? Oh. What era is that then?
And secondly, because life in Victorian London would be absolutely terrifying for someone accustomed to the luxuries of the 21st century. But let's say you somehow end up in a Freaky Friday situation and
indoor plumbing, electricity not being there, healthcare being about as expensive and hard to get, and actually probably about as good as modern day when you can't afford. So, okay, maybe some things would be normal.
switch bodies with a bona fide Victorian. How are you going to survive the London streets? Not to worry. With my extensive background studying history, certified by my 90,000 Reddit karma, I'm here to teach you everything you need to know to survive the Victorian era.
Hi there. I'm BlueJay. Okay, unironically, that's a cool pic, like the little video of the bird. I almost named my channel ReZero. ReZero. Oh, that would have been very different. I think I chose the bear direction verb. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also being told it's the Edwardian era. Oh, really? Huh.
Alright, so you just finished your Disney Channel style body swap and have officially transported over a century back in time to Victorian London. Gah! What? What is it, James? My body? What's happening? It looks like during the body swap you've received a lethal dose of gamma radiation. Oh, and your hairline is receding. My hair? Oh yeah, actually 2 out of every 3 guys will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35.
This is an ad, isn't it? This is definitely leading into an ad.
But about that radiation. BlueJay, how do I keep it? Alright, weird priorities. Well, really the best way to combat hair loss would be with keeps. It's a
Called it! I called it! Yeah, we're not doing the ad. There's some ads I think are interesting. This is not one.
The video. Of course, Alex, you're gonna have to wait a few centuries until you've got internet again, as you're now in Victorian...
A few centuries. Yeah, although technically the internet did come around in a very basic form around the 50s, but that was... Internet is a very loose term at that point.
London. The city is
very
booming
incorrect
from the results of the Industrial Revolution. The air is dense, but the stunning Gothic Revival architecture still manages to pierce through all the smog. It's a city of rapid expansion and expensive projects, starkly contrasted by the overflowing slums. But man, taking it...
How old is this video? 3 years ago? Is it bad that my first critique here is rapid expansion in projects is the only difference? It's like, oh yeah, remember when we did those?
All these new sites is really starting to make you thirsty.
Heading out, Hobbit? All right, thanks for dropping in, man. Wait, potentially bad news about oh shit, Hobbit, I hope you're all right. Good luck, man.
So you head on over to a well pump for a fresh sip of water. First mistake, what are you, crazy? You won't even survive a day here. You can't drink the water. Cholera outbreaks are about as common as an office quote in a Tinder bio. The booming population of London, combined with newly introduced indoor plumbing, resulted in overwhelming amounts of raw sewage. This sewage ended up...
And they were putting it directly into the river because for centuries, that's what the river was used for. Waste disposal.
In the Thames River, which...
And there's absolutely no sanitation yet.
Happens to be London's main source of drinking water, thus completing the circle of life. During one cholera outbreak, Jon Snow, a supporter of germ theory, looked at all the...
You know nothing?
...the sewage in their drinking water and had the hot take of, hey, what if we drink water, but without the poop? And ended the outbreak by ripping off the handle of a contaminated well pump. At the time, the community believed in the miasma theory. Basically, the...
Tramples the victor, the vanquished both. Miasma theory. Oh yeah, because people used to believe it was not actually bacteria because they didn't know about bacteria.
The idea that diseases were transmitted through foul odors. So government officials still rejected Snow's theory of fecal oral transmission, stating, "Germs in the water? Don't be ridiculous. It was stinky air." And this wouldn't be the last time a Jon Snow's...
The thing about miasma theory is it's wrong, but it's close enough to the reality that sometimes when it smells bad, that's because something bad is there that has germs, because bacteria makes bad smells. It's literally the case of it's just right enough that where it's wrong is where it kills you. And considering some of this is viruses, literally kills you.
Potential was shattered. So unless you want to die a painful death, I suggest boiling your water, or just stick to hard liquor, where the alcohol...
I mean, the alcohol was literally why a lot of people on ships only drank grog. It was highly watered down alcohol, or what everyone else would know it as American beer. And that's what's safer because it had less stuff in it that could kill you.
Alcohol would not only kill any germs, but also help drown that regret you're starting to feel for wishing to be in Victorian London instead.
Also, just be in London in general, I've been told. I haven't been there myself, except for Heathrow, and yeah, there's no alcohol that early in the morning.
Of shutting up and playing Wordle like a good little consumer. Alright, now that you're properly shit-faced, you're gonna need to pinpoint your social
British
class
already.
so you know who you're allowed to interact with. But isn't who I am inside more important than
No.
some social class?
Can you imagine a crazy concept of the ultra rich not wanting to deal with people in lower situations and the poor being looked down on by everyone? I mean, this is such a weird concept that we've moved away from. Yeah, I mean, but back then they would beat people with their security. I mean, with their own canes if they did, as opposed to now where you would be shot on principle and said you were intruding. It's very different. Much more refined now.
No! Simply talking to a social class higher than yours is enough to get you arrested here. Luckily,
It's a good thing this is so wrong now. You know, I'm going to keep being this sarcastic about it because there's at least one person out there who thinks I'm not. You are a very lucky person.
easy to find out which one you belong to. For example, are you over the age of 25 and alive? Then you're probably not in the lower class, as male tradesmen and laborers had life expectancies of 25 and 22 respectively.
Life expectancy 22. Tradesmen, carpenters. Because a lot of carpentry was really rough. Yeah. A lot of modern tools just to make it easier with power tools go a long way to making that job a lot safer.
But let's say you find yourself a member of the respectable upper class. What can you expect from your newly found privileged life? Well, first off, you can kiss the thought of a hard day's work goodbye, because with the fortune your family has built over generations through certainly non-exploitive means, you'll never have to work a day.
Yeah. And can you imagine if this isn't a joke, what the exploitive ones would have? The joke is, of course, it was exploitive. Because it wasn't exploitation at the time, it was business.
In your life. So instead, you're gonna have to find out how to kill all this free time you got on your hands. Being a person with enough wealth to buy a handful of developing nations, or one GPU, you decide to use...
I know it's a joke, but this came out 3 years ago, so this would be in the pandemic pricing era, right before they finally, like literally right before they adjusted, because 3 years ago would be 2022, so... You know what? No, I don't actually think it's a joke. I think he literally went on eBay and found someone who had that. And the worst part is, crypto miners might have paid that early on, especially when they was still easier and they required less GPU. So yeah, they might have done that, man. I hate this.
Use your money to give back to the poor people whose blood, sweat, and Fossy Jaws helped you build your riches. So you buy tickets to next Tuesday's Freak Show. Freak shows were essentially the MCU of the Victorian era, loved by people of all ages and social classes, except for pretentious people who prefer more refined entertainment, like seances. Everyone from your average Joe to Queen Victoria herself loved to goggle and laugh at all the different looking people performing. These freak shows showcase people with physical abnormalities, such as dwarfs, conjoined twins, giants, fat people, thin people, hairy people, ethnic people, and whatever else they thought would pique people's curiosity. Gather round, folks, gather round!
Oh god, it's literally the equivalent of TikTok. Shock value and then you move on.
For I'm about to unveil the wonders of the world, realities beyond your comprehension, freaks from distant and foreign lands. Meet the man of hair, the precious Piper Pinky, and behold, Paul. I thought this was a freak show. Oh, trust me, Paul's a freak. However, the reign of freak
Oh, okay, he got me on that one. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm sure it's not that.
Shows came to an end as reports of mistreatment of the performers came to light. And the
Wait, they didn't assume that was the case? Maybe it's just bias and hindsight considering it's so much later, but I just assumed everyone's like, oh yeah, they're probably being bastardized. Brutalized, other eyes that I'm not going to say on YouTube. the fact that it's actually something they took action about when they found out it was the case is a little surprising to me. Way to go, Victorian England. You might be more humane than us. I don't know if this is not the topic or the take he's going with this one, but it kind of feels that way.
The public was furious to find out that the people they went to laugh at for being less than human were being treated as less than human. But now that you've reached your limit of being near the working class who aren't actively carrying your dry martini on a silver platter, it's time for you to build your social status with your fellow aristocrats. To do this, you're gonna have to capitalize on some of the trends of the time. No, not child labor, we'll get to that later. I'm talking Egyptomania. Napoleon's campaigns in Egypt brought back trade and artifacts to Europe, eventually igniting a
Wait, what did he say? What was it? Egyptomania? Oh, yeah, because people... Oh, no. If they're talking about Egyptomania, they're going to talk about Mumia, probably, which was eating and using bits of dead people for everything. The reason mummies are scarce now is because people were eating them and burning them for fuel and putting them in medicine and thinking they were medicine and drinking them with alcohol. I'm gonna be nauseous. I can't stand this part of history. I cannot stand this part of history.
Craze for all things Egyptian in the West due to its perceived exotic nature. This craze peaked during the Victorian era, and Victorians sure had interesting ways of indulging in this trend, such as hosting mummy parties. Not the Brendan Fraser kind, they weren't that based. Specifically, they held mummy unwrapping parties. Getting your hands on a mummy was the easy part. You could literally cop.
Also, this is something that exists in the Victorian era. It wasn't just mummies. There were live dissections and things like that with dead bodies. And before anyone says, oh God, they got away with that, this is something that still happens now, currently, that you could buy tickets for now and is legal. And also a problem because a lot of time when you donate your body to science, sometimes it goes to a research institute. A lot of times it's bought by a non-profit who does public demonstrations for science where you pay an exorbitant amount of money to go watch someone get dissected for entertainment. I keep bringing this up because it keeps being a really fucked up real thing. So you might laugh at this being in the past. We still do this shit. They just sourced the bodies differently.
One from street vendors in Egypt like a pin from Disney World, but unwrapping them required a trained professional called an unroller. Why exactly they had to hire a professional to do some glorified banana peeling is beyond me, but I can only assume that their training involved a significant amount of fruit by the foot.
I mean, ironically, it was probably just to make it seem more professional. Because if you just have a random person doing it, okay, anyone can do it. If you have someone who is trained to do it, then that person is investing their time. It's noble. It's more engaging to the illusion of this actually matters and you're not being a freak looking at dead bodies.
Essentially, a bunch of people would gather round to watch the unroller unwrap the mummy and perform an autopsy, including cutting into the skull to go, oh my god, look, he's got a brain, that's crazy. Fragments of the pungent mummy wrappings were then passed throughout the audience for their, pleasure, I guess. What am I supposed to do with this? Well, today we recognize hosting an unboxing party.
The reason you would smell it is because it was meant to smell nice. Like perfume. Because the bodies were treated with very sweet smelling oils and things that would actually become perfume otherwise. And sometimes honey. So it actually would smell good. And it would have been dried out, but it wouldn't have rotted because a lot of that would be taken care of. So it didn't smell like walking to a morgue where it was rotting flesh. It would smell, well, drier, probably cleaner. And if you get over there's a person on that, maybe there's even lingering hints of like dried flower, essentially. And I don't mean that metaphorically. There could be flour sometimes. I don't think it was one of the big ones, though.
For corpses and disgracing of people's histories, the most optimal way to speedrun a Twitter hashtag, the Victorians just couldn't help but satisfy their intrigue. And in their defense, they basically came gift-wrapped. But if you need any more convincing on how evil this practice was, the most famous unwrapper was a surgeon.
Again. Still do it now. The unwrapping part isn't there, but the rest of it is still a thing. You could do this now, legally. I hate this knowledge, so I'm spreading with everyone because fuck everything.
Named Pettigrew. But overall, in the upper class, you won't need to worry all that much about staying alive. Except for the arsenic in your walls, lead on your dolls, corsets in your...
The lead on the dolls actually was going on a long time. Victorian corset. Oh, God. It actually did that kind of developmental issues? Oh. I didn't not realize it really fucked up your intestines that bad. And your lungs. Oh, God. Ah. The lead in toys, though, to give an idea, I like models. I like Game Workshop models. In the 90s, they were made with lead. That wasn't a Victorian era thing. That was a until within my lifetime thing. The arsenic in the walls, the green wallpaper. Yeah, that one I wasn't aware of, but I'm not surprised in the slightest.
Your torso, cyanide in your photos, strychnine in your tablets,
Yeah, really, cyanide in the photos. A daguerreotypes, yeah. Did not actually know that. I mean, you also had Coke, which was made with Coke. For YouTube reasons, I'm not going to explain that.
bits of plastic, kitchens full of toxins, more
I mean, what was the plastic one? Because I'm pretty sure...
cyanide in your photos, strychnine in your tablets, explosive bits of plastic, kitchens full of
Oh, explosive bits of plastic. Ah, as opposed to now where everything's plastic. It's just a macroplastic as opposed to a microplastic.
toxins, morphine for your youngins, mercury-coated hats, radiation from your glass, kerosene and hair products.
The uranium thing is actually incredibly famous right now and very hard to get because, you know, it's uranium. It will kill you if you get that close. But they're also really expensive. So if you have a lead case somewhere and you know what's inside of it, you don't want to ever die, yeah, they go for a lot of money. Hopefully the people who know how to contain them.
And asbestos in just about everything.
Yeah, that's still around a lot of
Good
places.
luck. But what if you aren't lucky?
My first apartment, asbestos walls. It was from this time period. It was built in like 1880. So yeah, it was asbestos walls. We did not drill into it.
Enough to live the life of a Victorian Scrooge McDuck, and instead, you find yourself living la vida pobre in the
You
working
die.
class. Hold off on the booze there, buddy. As tempting of a coping mechanism alcohol is, we gotta make sure you even survive childhood first. Let's put you in a humble family of 7 kids, and shit, 4 of your siblings just died. What? Oh yeah, nearly 60% of working class children died before the age of 5. Good
Sometimes when they're working.
for you, champ, you won the coin toss. I need to lie down. So long as it's
Nope.
in a minor chimney, because it's time for you to get to work. I'm 5 years old. And about time you started contributing to the family, you lazy leech. Without child labor laws, working class kids started working as early as 4 years old. Now pick your poison, chimney sweeping or coal mining. Well, I suppose it's just a 9 to 5. 9 to 5? No. Victorian...
Yeah, to give you an idea, everything about the 40-day work week is new. It used to be die, and that's your retirement. You go until you can't, and when you can't, you're dead. That's how a lot of it was. Unless you had money, in which case you could take time off. Vacations, weekends off was a thing that came up because of laws saying that you had to get this kind of labor benefit. Prior to that, it was you're at work. You're not at work, you're sleeping. You're not sleeping, you're at work. And if you're sleeping, you should probably be at work, so get up.
And children were expected to work 12 to 18 hours a day. Gotta beat out that optimism early. Besides, you've only got that small stature for so many years. Companies have to capitalize on your ability to squeeze in the tight spaces while you can. Now, these are still your formative years, so we gotta make sure you choose the child profession that'll cause the least amount of physical and emotional trauma. There were
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. League of Legends would do it, yeah.
a lot, but let's narrow it down to chimney sweep and coal miner and weigh some pros and cons. As a coal miner, you can expect some permanent eye damage due to eye strain from the dark environment, respiratory problems from coal dust, permanent spine deformation due to stooping, and of course there was the occasional explosion or cave-in. But on the bright side, you're essentially playing the closest Victorian equivalent to Minecraft. As for chimney sweeps, say goodbye.
Again, considering there are explosions, the creeper in there actually is completely canonically accurate. I don't even know anything about chimney sweeps, though, other than Bert played one. That's it. That's all I got.
The skin on your elbows and knees as that's all getting scraped off.
Oh.
You'll experience some irreversible lung damage from all the soot,
Ooh.
and there's a high risk of death from falling or getting stuck.
And considering how small they are, you know, actually, chimney sweep might actually be worse. And the soot here would be much more fine, and more of it because it would be explicitly from burning. So it'd probably be worse than mining.
In the tight chimneys. But at least you can die happy knowing that when Mary Poppins comes out in 100 years, Dick Van Dyke will forever cement your profession as much cooler than it actually was. So assuming you survive your childhood profession, it's time for the big boy world. Now, I know the idea of living poor in a Victorian city is probably a terrifying concept, but don't worry, the Victorians actually put in some effort to help the poverty-stricken wastes of oxygen excuse me, less fortunate folk.
No, I think the way he put it the first time is exactly how it was thought about correctly. And it's going to be pretty bad.
For example, if you're homeless, you can escape the cold at a penny sit-up, where for the small price of 1 penny, you get to sit on a bench in a shelter for the night.
Which is horrible. Until you realize the current thing is you pay nothing, and they actively design some benches where they will put spikes into you if you don't pay. These, you just don't pay, and you don't sit, as opposed to the ones where you don't pay, and they actively harm you. This is not a joke, by the way. They have been instituted in some places already.
Whoa, now don't get too crazy. You're not allowed to sleep here. What do you think you are, a human? You only paid for the privilege of sitting, and penny sit-ups even had monitors to ensure you didn't fall asleep. If you're looking to catch some Z's, you're gonna have to cough up an extra penny at a 2-penny hangover. Don't get too excited. Contrary to the name suggests, a 2-penny hangover is not a charity dive bar where you can drink yourself into an ethanol-induced coma.
I mean, that's what moonshine started for, so...
Instead, it was a rope that you literally hung over. Not the most comfortable experience, but at least you'll be the coolest kid on campus with your minimalist hammocking setup. The rope was ideal because it allowed the staff to quickly, dispense with all the poor people in the morning. But hey, maybe it was a good day at the factory and you walked out with 4 pennies in your pocket, you little aristocrat.
Oh yeah, because money was differently valued, so change actually mattered.
At you? Well, you can afford to be a high roller and head on over to a 4-penny coffin. Yep, while it may look like you just got shipped back from the Crimean War, a 4-penny coffin was quite the step up from a rope, to be fair. You got to spend the night in a nice coffin, you had a tarp to keep warm, and you even got assigned your own little serial number, which is undoubtedly the closest you'll ever get to being acknowledged in your life.
This is horrible and still better than a lot of places where it's you go outside and hope you freeze to death. I know what I said. It's bad. There are good homeless shelters. There's also a lot more that are, I don't care, I don't want to be here. A lot of the people here are crazy and they don't want to get treatment, so we can't force them because they haven't done anything to deserve being forced treatment. But that might change, and if it does, I will probably be the first person stabbed. I mean, dead. I mean, we'll know where this goes. And that's on the good ones. If you want to talk about the bad ones, I'm not going to do it on YouTube because there is probably a lot I could say that is not going to be kosher.
Speaking of life, you better get used to this one, as people didn't exactly graduate from social classes, so the only 4 walls you'll likely ever get to call home
is leaving the country and hoping for something better in America because you cannot escape your class where you're at. And if you go to a place where no one knows you and you suddenly get money through completely mysterious means, no one will know and they'll just be okay with it. Because in America, everyone is new money at this time period. That's why, even if everything I just said is bullshit, people believed it.
Will be a coffin at best, or a coffin at worst, if you can afford it. But on the bright side, if you manage to survive through the era, you'll get to experience many of the following significant discoveries and advancements. America found its second manifest destiny with the discovery of crude oil in 1859. Charles Darwin published his book on the concept of evolution, meaning that in a few centuries we may evolve past thinking crocs are cool. Darwin's half-cousin,
No, I think we're going down the wrong side on that one.
Francis Galton, took this research and started modern eugenics. Which led to problems. Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone in 1876.
And thus begins the downfall of humanity. The internet is based on the telephone by communicating long range. I'm going to stick to that one.
Device that changed the world by allowing people to learn about their car's extended warranty. Germ theory would become accepted by the end of the Victorian era, and nobody would doubt doctors ever again. The 19th century saw many innovations in data visualization.
Am I the only one who's just looking at this going, yeah, it's slightly worse, but a lot of the worse isn't that much worse. This is kind of depressing, actually.
Which we use today for optimizing shiny Pokemon encounter strategies. The Bezimer process gave us bigger buildings for more people. Modern artillery gave us smaller buildings for less people. Radiation was discovered in 1896, leading the cancer treatment in Imagine Dragons. The Navier-Stokes equations were developed to describe the motion of viscous fluids and weed out chemical engineering students.
Yeah, I would be one of the guys weeded out. I mean, it's also math, so I would never touch that in the slightest, but oh god. And Obsidian just going, so basically the modern job market and economy. That is more accurate than I want to consider.
Benz builds the world's first car while simultaneously killing the concept of peaceful suburban life. And those are just a few of the significant advancements made during the iconic Victorian era.
Actually, what do you say about cars?
Suburban life. And those are Carl Benz builds the world's first car while
Really? That? Oh. Huh. So I guess a Benz is a very historic car brand. I did not actually know that. Huh. This is news to me.
Simultaneously killing the concept of peaceful suburban life.
Although it is kind of funny because while he's talking about how it killed the concept of suburban life, while suburbs did exist, the biggest reason to have a suburb was because you had a way to get out from the city. And the biggest reason to have a city is because you didn't have a way to get out. A car being a way to go into the city to work while leaving it to live somewhere else where there's more room and more opportunity to get room and not be as close and packed. So it built the suburb as much as it destroyed it, which is probably the joke because it definitely didn't, but whatever. It's just me being hyper analytical about something stupid and getting stuck on a tangent that I'm stuck on. I've never done that before, so it doesn't matter.
Those are just a few of the significant advancements made during the iconic Victorian era. So, Alex, are you excited for your new Victorian life? You want to go home and play Elden Ring?
Yeah. This is probably one of the few time periods where GTFO and living in the woods might actually be a safer, healthier, and more fulfilling option. So, full Walden.
Good boy. The Victorian era. Disgusting and deadly, but inspired Bloodborne. 3 out of 10 stars.
And yet somehow, Bloodborne might still look nicer than actually living there. Oh, wrong one.
Do you ever watch
Oh, yeah, I don't want to live in the Victorian era. Wouldn't mind being rich during it, but even that, probably not. The entire arsenic wallpaper, kind of a buzzkill. Or just a kill. Overall, though, you guys know the deal. That was awesome. I really do like BlueJay stuff. His take is, it's very much tongue-in-cheek. But the biggest surprise in this entire video wasn't that he made these jokes like, yeah, Victorian's horrible. It's that a lot of the things he's talking about are like, hey, this is starting to look very familiar. I don't like this looking familiar. Stop making it look familiar. I'm not the only one thinking that, right? I hope I'm not the only one thinking that. Or maybe I am hoping I'm the only one thinking that and I'm wrong, and that would make it much less depressing in general. Yeah. Probably. Either way, you guys know the deal. Link below, original video. Hit it up. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.